everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm really just trying to counsel everyone on this ship.
I'm Nico, and I am a sucker for cats, and that's my downfall this time.
And I'm Dan, the ship's engineer.
And we are here today to discuss Lily Cat. So this was directed and written by Hisayuki Toriyumi, starring, and we're going to do the English voice cast here, Mike Reynolds as Mike Hamilton, Bob Bergen as Jiro Takagi, Julie Madalena as Nancy.
Nancy doesn't get a last name.
And Gregory Sneegoff as Dick Barry. They call her Nancy. I don't know her name. I really don't know her name. So we open in the 23rd century on a ship hired by the Sincam Corporation, and it's bound for a planetary survey 40 light years from Earth. So the members of the crew are basically put into cryogenic sleep, and when they wake up, 20 years on Earth will have passed, but the crew will actually only age 1 month. It's like mad efficient for getting to places far away. Everything proceeds smoothly, but kind of en route, the ship encounters some mysterious debris. Now, the crew's all asleep, so the computer basically follows a programming sequence and decides to bring the debris on board. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not going to turn out well for the crew.
Dumb fucking idea.
Nico, why don't you carry on, sir? What happens?
So the crew awakens, and they begin to realize that they're in a movie directed by Ridley Scott. Wait, no. They just go about their work. The crew includes Mike Hamilton, the ship's captain, Jiro Takagi, Dick Barry, and Nancy, the cast we just read to you. And Nancy happens to be the daughter of the president of Sincam Corporation. Captain Hamilton discovers some bad news, though, when he receives a communication from HQ telling him that 2 members of his crew are imposters and are most likely time criminals. Maybe they've used some of the time-bewitching incense.
Time-bewitching incense.
I knew that shit was coming.
Yeah. Anyway, these time criminals have stowed away on the ship to dodge jail, as opposed to just, I don't know, going to Fiji. And things get worse when the ship's crew begins to die from a mysterious bacteria that resembles Legionnaire's disease at first, and then really doesn't resemble Legionnaire's disease even a little bit. But things continue to spiral when it's revealed that the bacteria is able to take the bodies of the people that it kills, and it can construct them into a massive monstrosity that kills even more of the crew. Also, the bacteria is literally eating away at the ship. And also, the captain has lost control of the ship, and the control has been transferred from the bridge to the central control room. Almost like in that one movie by Ridley Scott. Nope, getting away from myself.
Nope.
The
Not yet.
The captain breaks into the control room then and learns that the central computer, called Mother, is taking orders from a robotic replica of Nancy's cat named Lily Cat. But the cat's named Lily. It's not named Lily Cat. That'd be fucking weird. I don't think you would name your dog like, hello, Freddy Dog.
It is Lily Cat, though. It is Lily Cat.
Well,
cat's an acronym.
Nancy's cat is called Lily, but the replica
Lily
is
Cat.
called Lily Cat. Yeah, because cat's an acronym, don't you know?
Was it like computer augmented cat?
Something.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure about that.
Something like that.
But Dan, we're talking about cats here. We have this bacteria on board,
And I'm
sir.
not
What's
talking
going on?
Skimbleshanks or nothing.
What? You don't know the word fucking communicate, but you know whatever the fuck you just said?
Yeah, it's a reference to cats. Fucking
Anyways.
Mr. Mistopheles, all that shit.
Bruh.
Well, the crew continued to drop like flies from this bacteria, and we get another revelation. Turns out that there's only one time criminal on board, and it's Jiro Takagi, while Dick Barry is actually the legendary Sidewinder Dick, a detective who followed Jiro on board. The crew came to realization that the corporation is planning on returning the ship to Earth with the killer bacteria on board. And, of course, they, being good people, decide to stop it. To make matters worse, they're all already infected and will die no matter what they do.
Are they good people or are they just stuck in the situation?
Both.
I mean, they could just say fuck it and like leave the ship.
That's what I would have done.
Hey.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So Dick dies, and Jiro, Nancy, and Captain Hamilton are left to deal with the bacteria So they get some flamethrowers, like another movie directed by Ridley Scott, and it wasn't very effective, though. So Captain Hamilton stays on the ship and blows it up while Jiro and Nancy escape on the shuttle. The monstrous bacteria jumps onto the shuttle, but burns up the atmosphere as Jiro and Nancy descend to the planet. The movie ends with Jiro telling Nancy that while they might be doomed, he plans on living life to the best of his ability on an alien planet which they would know nothing about.
Oh god, they're so fucked.
Nancy agrees, and they fly off to the horizon.
They're like so turbo fucked.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So first up is going to be, how does this look? And Nico, I wanted to bring up a point that you talked about earlier. You joked earlier about the time bewitching incense, right?
Yeah.
So I'll have you know, there's actually a link between this movie and Vampire Hunter D.
Is there really?
Yes, the monster design of the bacteria was actually done by Yoshitaka Amano.
No
right?
shit! I didn't pick that up. That's rad as hell.
And Yoshitaka Amano sometimes does things for Vampire Hunter D and did a lot of the stuff for that movie.
Didn't make the connection to Vampire Hunter D specifically, but there is one scene where the like bacteria thing is like it's got somebody's like face and it like goes
shit.
up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I recognize that, and now that makes sense.
That's fucking cool, man.
Exactly. But Nico, I do want you real quick to tell me what you think about how this looks.
Sure.
I mean, it is obviously, like an 80s anime.
Totally.
I think it came out in 87. So how's it look?
Yeah, it looks dated, but the art style is still pretty fucking cool. Like, I'm a sucker for science fiction and aliens and shit, and this has all of that in spades, particularly in the second half. I will also say that I almost said the set design, but like the setting, it does very clearly take from like the Nostromo and shit in Alien, and in this case, that's a good thing. The different places on the ship look cool. The like corridors they go in are like dank and dark and creepy and shit. And like we said earlier, the monster design's pretty fucking rad. So, keeping it in mind that it was, again, a product of its time, I would say that it looks pretty nice, all things considered.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I am the biggest sucker for that 80s anime aesthetic. Like, that shit is my shit. And I really like the way the movie looks. The probably biggest detractor, and this is kind of one of those things, we've said it on the pod a couple times, every now and again you're going to watch a movie and there's going to be something in it that's just distasteful in modern kind of society, and you can't go back and change the movie. You could only look at it the way it is. So there's a character, he's a pretty minor character, but he's pretty clearly black. And he's the only character who has lips drawn the way that he has them. And this is something that's like a problem within anime. Honestly, like even still to this day, you can still point out examples.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at you, Nanny in the Promised Neverland, but like literally there are still examples of like where for some reason, like Japanese animators, they just decide to go for very stereotypical looks on black people. And it's unfortunate. The character doesn't really pop up too much, and it's not the worst example I've seen. I've seen way worse, but it's still very noticeable and still something that I do want to mention because I think it is worth, stating it. But that aside, I do think that it's a good look. And to be honest, it does draw a lot of inspiration. I can't quite put my finger on exactly where, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And also, I know we already said it, but Yoshitaka Amano is a fucking genius, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that. Dan, where are you at with it?
Just ditto everything the two of you said, and the monster design was sick, and just seeing some of the crazy stuff that happens in the mind bending, like the bacteria like steals people's bodies and seeing their faces morph and rip apart and everything almost reminded me of like Hellraiser in some parts. Like that one scene when the dude gets his head like pulled apart in Hellraiser, like, pulled apart, like that kind of happens, but in sci-fi anime version kind of. But yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good.
All right. Well, since we kind of stole the rug from you a little bit here in terms of stole the rug. So
give me your fucking carpet.
Since we kind of took your thunder a little bit there when it came to the looks, why don't you fill us in on the sounds, Dan? How does this movie sound?
I have two main things on that. One, it sounds very 80s and very 80s anime. We've got a lot of the classic sound effects and just things, space, sci-fi, anime sound effects. The soundtrack threw me off. It was very 80s and synth and everything, but I didn't think the soundtrack made the movie not very horror to me. And
I can see that, yeah.
There's one part of the movie where they kind of like fight back against the bacteria briefly, and that's part of the time.
Rocking.
Yeah. It's part of the time when we see some of the really grotesque stuff happening. And like, I feel like in a modern movie, the soundtrack would be very dark and whatever. But this was like a rockin' 80s guitar solo. And like, I felt like I was about to watch the Transformers, like that one scene in the Transformers movie when Optimus Prime starts like shoot people or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that one song, like it was, I mean, different than that, but the same kind of like feeling, right? And I was like, this is a horror movie? Like this with this soundtrack? So that was an interesting choice, but I liked the music. I thought it was cool. Just maybe not quite right for the movie.
I will say one quick note on the sound effects. Listeners who are fans of Hokusho no Ken, aka Fist of the North Star, will note that when one of the characters dies, the classic like that goes when one of the characters dies plays. I was like, bro, come on, son. Like that's from Fist of the North Star.
Wasn't it don't or whatever thing?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And it was like, yo, I recognize it like right away. But Dan's totally right. I also thought I listened to both the English voice acting as well as the Japanese voice acting. And to be honest, like both are exactly what you would expect for their time period. You know what I mean? Like this was kind of when, particularly for English voice acting, this was still kind of in the infancy era as far as anime is concerned. So at points it can be a little bit rough at times, but they put their hearts into it, yo.
Yeah.
Like they really put their hearts into it.
They did.
I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. And I think no matter which way you go, sub or dub on this one, I know, hey, don't take my cards away, but sub or dub on this one, I think it's fine. Like you'll turn out good either way.
Definitely agree.
But Nico, anything else you want to add about the sound?
Yeah, no, I just want to echo what y'all said. The one thing that I think is charming that definitely shows its age has to do with the voice acting. The voice acting has this really almost rushed quality where the actors are really trying to deliver their lines really fast sometimes and get all of their thoughts out at once. Like they're delivering some sort of high tension anime speech, which I mean, sometimes they are, but like it is a very like 80s anime thing to do. And it doesn't sound like actual conversations a lot of the time, but that just comes with the territory.
I think one of the things, and this was something that I was kind of getting at a little bit when I was talking about like being in the infancy. I think at that point in time, translations and getting the entire point across at times, sometimes people were in two minds about whether or not it's better to rewrite a sentence to fit the context or go with like a direct translation. And also you got to like try and at least match a little bit the mouth flaps. Like you can't be talking when the character's not talking as well. So that probably contributed as well. Like a lot of people were still working out a lot of that stuff.
For sure.
So I think a lot of that went into that as well. But I feel what you're saying though. I definitely feel what you're saying though. So I want to ask, we had a little discussion on the pod and I wonder this. First off, is this movie scary to you? Do you find this movie to be scary? Were you scared at all while watching this movie?
Not particularly. There was one or two scenes where I was kind of like, oh, wow, that's a little intense, little tense scene. But as a whole, I was not scared or anything. And I think a big part of that was the music.
True. Nico, how about you? Were you scared at all during this movie?
No, I mean, I was, I guess, shocked by some of the display of gore and the just depravity that goes on in the latter half. Like shit gets wild pretty quick and goes from 0 to 100, I would say. But this wasn't anything that was necessarily fear-inducing. Having said that, one, this is like an anime from the 80s, and two, when you watch so many fucking horror movies like we do, I think it takes a lot to scare people who are really into this shit now.
You got that horror tolerance up, huh?
I do.
So here's a question for you guys, though. Do you think anime is ever scary? Do you ever find anime to be scary? And there's obviously, a bunch more horror things that we can watch for the pod and probably should. But the reason why I ask is this. One thing about horror that I think really scares me is being able to kind of visualize or like self-actualize myself in those situations, or imagining that something like that could happen in my life. And I think oftentimes, given that it's drawings, I do think that sometimes for me makes it like a little bit less scary. Like the stories can still be really dope. Everything can still be really cool, but I just at times view it as a little bit less scary. Do you guys have the same opinion? Have you ever been scared by an anime? Do you feel the same way? Just generally.
I've been unsettled by anime. I can't think of any specific times that I've been like actually scared, but I remember when I watched Paprika for the first time, that kind of fucked me up and definitely, messed with my head and got me on edge multiple fucking times. And to that end, also, I think one area where I'm eager to see some depictions of this, I think anime would be a wonderful media for prestige horror in particular. I just think that, like, especially with modern animation and how far we've come, like, think about the style that goes in like Your Name and 5 centimeters a second, but like done in like a prestige horror kind of thing. That'd be dope as fuck.
I was literally about to say, like, first of all, I was definitely about to say that, but also, like, I guess just generally having the breathing space, maybe, like, if you wanted to go for, like, a series or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be able to achieve that as well. So I could see that. Or, like, a mini-series even, you know what I mean? Like, a couple OVAs. So I definitely see that. Dan, you have any thoughts on that?
I like Nico, I've definitely been unsettled before. I think that's a good way to put it. But I haven't been scared. And a number of years ago, I went on a quest to find an anime that actually scared me.
Ooh.
And I couldn't do it. I watched a handful of horror anime, and I found an interesting article, and I'll have to try to find it again. But it was about why anime like can't be scary. And it's because of the simple fact that it's not real people. And the kind of like what Justin was saying with like drawings, like even like subconsciously, that you're not watching real people. So I guess you can't put yourself in that position or whatever. And I don't know exactly how true that is or whatever, but it definitely got me thinking. And like, I mean, I've seen, Higurashi, which was very unsettling, but to me, I didn't get scared. I've seen it, like, and that's more like gory, bloody kind of anime. I've seen Monster, which is more of a psychological, slow burn kind of anime, but like
fucking Akira.
Yeah. And like I've seen a lot of different like genres or types of horror, but I don't know. I have yet to actually be scared from a horror anime. I hope that one day I can be. And don't get me wrong, there's been unsettling and really cool, really good anime, but I, as of yet, have not been scared.
That makes sense. And on the last kind of note of kind of talking about anime, I think for me, more so than like anime, I played one or two kind of anime-based like games or visual novels. So like Corpse Party is an example of one.
That's a whole different ball game, I feel
and like visual novels, it is an entirely different ball game. But I think it's funny that in those contexts, I think I've been more scared.
Yeah, agreed.
Because they, I think, allow for a little bit more of putting myself in the place of some of that stuff or whatever else. So real quick, I want to talk a little bit about our, would you call it the antagonist, our monster, our villain in the story here, the bacterium. I thought it was a very interesting way of going about things because, I mean, yes, it is a monster, but I think there is something scary about a bacterium because it's emotionless. It just acts on instinct. There is nothing in that bacterium that's, gonna feel sympathy, gonna feel bad for you. It's just out to get you. And this one was a particularly bad one. Nico, what were your thoughts on the bacterium?
My thoughts were just like, can bacteria really eat metal though?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I think it was a really good villain in that sense. Or maybe not villain, but just sort of like opposing force. And I
Hmm.
think it's a little bit funny too that once they realized that, oh, it went into the air ducts, they didn't just realize that they're all just super fucked because there's no turning back. Like once that weird little fucking Fig Newton looking pod thing went into the ship at the beginning there, like they were all screwed. They were absolutely
Hmm.
totally fucked. There
Yep.
was nothing they could have done.
Nope.
Like maybe try and Lysol it or something, but I like we said previously, I maybe that wouldn't work as well.
So, Dan, one thing I did want to ask you, giving you a slightly different frame here, how did you feel about, I guess, just generally the bacterium, but also the implementation of it? You know, like it starts off small and then it really does grow both physically and also in the story. It grows and it eats away parts of the ship. They have to jettison parts of the ship off. Eh, I mean, how do you feel about that? Did you like the implementation? Do you think it added to the tension?
I did like it. Now, this movie is just over an hour long, so it's
Yes,
short
just.
for a movie, obviously. I actually kind of wanted more. I wanted
Mm.
things to take a little bit longer. I feel like going from that small bacteria, what's going on, to hey, I'm a big ass fucking monster happened real quick.
It
And
did.
I kind of wanted that drawn out a little bit more and a little bit more investigation into what this is and us seeing it evolve a little bit more than just, oh fuck, now I'm ripping people's heads apart and morphing into a monster, you know.
That's very true. That's very true. Now, I'm going to move on to I would say the elephant in the room, but I feel like this is bigger than an elephant. This is the fucking T-Rex, the brontosaurus in the room, whatever you want to call it. This movie is heavily inspired by The Thing, but more so than that, Alien. Holy shit, Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And Nico, I know you're kind of our resident Alien Ridley Scott version, of course, like, you know, connoisseur, if you will. I mean, how many things do we have here? We've got the cat. We've got the literal computer being called Mother. The
like...
ship feels like the Nostromo. Like there's even you have this crew working for this heartless corporation, even though the corporation really didn't seem too heartless to me, but working for this heartless corporation that, you know, is forcing them, not forcing, but telling them to go mine and they have to go into the cryo sleep. I mean, they're like beat by beat, there are things that are taken directly from Alien, which came out in 79. And this movie came out, you know,
8 years
just
later.
under a decade later. So how do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
I think that it was something that was bound to happen. Like, I'm not surprised, but man, they sure are just putting their heart on their sleeve with their influences here. Like, they don't give a damn about originality. The closest thing to originality that this movie has is the little subplot between the Australian detective and Jiro, the surprise murderer who was apparently killing people in the broad daylight, which, like, that was kind of cool, if a little strange to see. But apart from that, you're not going to be getting any kind of Pulitzer Prize winning narratives here. Like, it's fine. It's fine. I laughed at it when I was watching it, and if I hadn't seen Alien, I think it would have been more compelling. But given that that's like one of my favorite movies of all fucking time, like it stood out like a sore thumb.
Can we give them a point or two for the bacterium? Because the bacterium is different.
It is. I don't think it's as scary, but I mean, this movie isn't as scary as Alien. Very few movies are, but the bacteria is at least something that they derived from it to be different.
Now, Dan, I kind of want your 2 cents on the matter.
I'm with Nico on that. I mean, this movie is Alien, the animation, basically. And yeah, I mean, even the flamethrowers and
I forgot about that.
I mean, there's a scene too when, like we said, the bacteria eats the metal, but there's also a scene when they kind of
just like the acid
that.
in the xenomorph's blood.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That reminded me very much of that. It was just Alien the animation, basically.
yeah, they really like kind of did like a little bit of let me put some of my OC characters into
Yeah.
Alien here. I will say, to your point, Nico, about like Jiro and the detective and stuff, and given Dan's earlier point about how the movie is kind of short already, I was kind of a little bit of wasted time. Like Jiro killing 3 dudes because they, I guess, led to the death of his sister.
Yeah.
That is fuck all to do with what's happening right now with this bacteria blowing up this ship.
Yeah, like Jiro says in the middle of nowhere when he's investigating the like goings on in the movie at first, he said, "She would have looked like you if she was alive now."
Yeah.
What? Nothing. Let's keep going.
Yeah, also, if she was alive now, he literally just did it.
Yeah.
Like, he literally just killed him. Like, come on now. She still looks like that. I mean, granted, she's dead, but like, come on, bro. Like, your sister just died. Like, of course, if she was still alive, she'd look like you. Yeah, because she did. But either way, like, I agree with both of you. Like, this is honestly, like, it does draw like 1 or 2 things from the thing, because at least I believe so, the bacteria can kind of like quote unquote mimic human form or like the people it's killed, but
we don't really
took their
see
bodies,
that,
are you
though.
really,
I feel like that was a wasted plot
once,
point.
See like once or twice.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to, they should have gone full on ripoff, so we could just get the thing in Alien in one, and had like the bacteria like posing as people.
Yeah, see, that would have been cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Could have been like Leviathan, but good.
Better.
Oi, I'll take you not to take Leviathan's good name in vain.
What are we gonna make, bird people?
Oh, I forgot that was cool. I forgot about that one.
I can't get over that fucking line, bro.
Oh god.
So here's something now. Do you take the ending of this movie as like a positive, feel-good ending? What kind of ending is this? And to set the stage here, the entire crew's dead. The ship's been exploded. It's literally just Jiro and Nancy. Both of them have already been infected with the bacteria. It's in their lungs, and it will kill them. This is a fact. And the two of them just kind of like are on the spaceship, and Jiro's like, I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And Nancy's like, yep. And they just go. And I'm like, y'all are going to die in like 5 minutes. Like, this is not even like, oh, like I have like a week left. No, dude, everyone else died from the virus in like pretty soon after they caught it. Like, you are dead. So how do you feel about it? Are you inspired by their drive to live on? Is it stupid? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I feel like this movie tried to end on a positive note, and just the implementation was not great. And it definitely, like, they tried to do it, and then when you think about it for half a second, you're like, yeah, this isn't all that happy. Like, yeah, they're gonna die in a second. So it didn't work very well.
I guess the only good thing is like they actually did manage to kill the bacteria for real.
Yeah.
Because between exploding the ship and taking the big bacteria into the atmosphere where it burned up, I guess they'd be okay.
Except for the bacteria that's already in them,
Yeah. So super, super quick side plot here. There was this little side plot about like the bacteria couldn't infect like the main ship's core because it was composed of like a certain kind of metal, and the bacteria couldn't corrode that metal, as well as the cat, because the cat emits a magnetic field. And I was thinking to myself, right? You know what emits a bigger magnetic field than a cat?
A fucking ship.
Computers.
A planet.
Even more than a ship. A planet.
Yeah.
A planet, right? So one would think if a magnetic field causes the bacteria to die, maybe if they just like touch down real quick on the planet, they'll delete the virus from themselves.
Yo, they just got to get some juggalos up in here.
Fucking magnets, bro.
How do they work?
How did that work? Wow, we all got that reference. So, I mean, taking that, I don't know. I feel like it is kind of positive, but it's also kind of dumb. And Nika, are you in concurrence here? Do you concur?
Yeah, but the part that really gets me is the music in this scene. This is one of the most like dissonant sort of, not the music, but just like there's almost like a ludonarrative dissonance. That's not the right word, but just like it's so happy and upbeat and optimistic, and it's like, we're gonna be okay. Like the producers are clearly trying to paint a scene that is optimistic, but if you have a frontal lobe, you will know how fucked they are. Like,
Bonner and I were watching this, and Bonner goes, this is cool and all, but they're still dead in like 10 minutes. And I was like, I busted out laughing because he was pretty right. He was pretty right about that. So I want to ask you guys now, it's time for the what would you do, right? So first off, just out of curiosity, would you ever go onto like a ship that would take 40 years, 20 years there, 20 years back? You age 2 months, but you would show up on Earth 40 years later. Would you take that ride ever?
I don't think so.
Man, I don't know. Like, I want to go into space, but I would just miss everyone. Like, I don't know, man. That's hard.
I want to go into space, but just like Jeff Bezos did. Like, I want to like see space and come back. And the reason why I don't want to actually go in space is because of shit like this movie. Like, fuck that. Like, I've seen enough horror and sci-fi shit. Like, I just want to like look at Earth from space and then just come right back down. I'm good.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
I'm so scared that like, because I love like looking at pictures of space and like the voids and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, like an ancient eldritch being is chilling in one of these and is going to get me, bro. Like
straight up.
Some being that lives amongst the stars. Like, I'm like, nah, fuck that, bro. There's some kind of space worm that's going to get me. I don't know what's out there, dude, but there's something. And I guess it might be this bacteria. So let's say the three of us are on the ship. You know, we're employees of the, what was it, fucking Symantec? What's the corporation?
Norton Internet Security Symantec is now getting into space travel. Fuck what you heard about firewalls.
Hey, that would make sense if they failed to kill a virus too, right?
Yeah, right.
Or a bacteria or whatever. But hey, fuck you guys. Vast was better. So SynCam, right, is sending the three of us into space. And we wake up and we see the transmission that, yo, by the way, there's like time criminals on this ship. Let's make the argument that the three of us are friends. So, you know, like, we already know that none of us are the time criminals. What would your reaction be? Would you just start like scoping out the crew? Would you interrogate? What would you do?
Honestly, like, and the captain raises this point. What the fuck does it matter? They're stuck there anyway. Like, what are they gonna do? This fucking detective guy comes over here and is like, oh, I'm gonna handcuff this man. Which, like, okay, good on you for your machismo and commitment to the bit, but like, why? Why?
I'm in agreement there. It's fucking pointless, bro. The time criminal may as well start putting in a shift. Like, we got to get this work done, bro.
Yeah.
Dan, thoughts?
So if we're all three friends and there's time criminal on board, I would look at you, Justin, and be like, bro, are you trolling right now? Are you a time criminal or nah? Because you would also be like, time criminal. Yeah, that sounds badass. I'm going to be a time criminal, bro.
That's fair. That's fair. That's a pretty ill way to dodge a crime, bro.
Yeah.
You go and come back and you got like a whole new life and you aged 2 months.
Yeah.
So it's pretty ill. But I also want to ask, let's say now we fast forward a little bit. So people have started dying. We know about the disease and this creature has started to appear everywhere. I mean, what would you do? What would your moves be? Would you just do what the captain tells you? Would you like try and flee the ship? Like, what's your moves?
I think I would try and get as fucked up as possible just because I know that at that point my life is over and in a relatively short time span. Like, I can see the end point. So, like, might as well throw a fucking party, man.
All right. Nico goes into the party mode. Dan,
live life to the fullest. I would join Nico in the party mode, honestly.
Yeah. Play some Betrayal at the House on the Hill. You already know.
That's right.
Official DOTD party, bro. Because, I mean, like, look, I think the only thing I would do differently is I would probably be like, yo, like, I would rig the ship to self-destruct. And then, like, I would set the timer a little bit of the ways out so we could enjoy ourselves, but like, we're not making it past an hour. So like, I just set a timer or something like that and blow that joint up.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Like, if we had a further outlook and like, okay, you'll last maybe like a week or something or a few days, like, I would just like go back to the cryo sleep. Honestly.
That's a
You
shout.
die in cryo sleep though.
Yeah, but I die in my sleep.
Oh, nah, fuck that. I'd rather blow up the ship, bro. You're going to die too because I'm blowing up the ship. But I mean, like, that's just how it is. Like, I got to take out the bacteria. I feel committed enough that, like, I got to stop this shit from getting back to Earth. Although people have magnets, so I'm pretty sure we could fuck that bacteria up. Regardless, because that was the thing. They were worried, but I was like, dude, Symantec also knows that, like, magnets fuck it up. So, like, you guys are good. But regardless.
This
I think
movie's
that's
so fucking dumb.
I don't know if it's defeatist or what, but I guess that's us. That's how we do it here.
Yep.
So
God.
I want to get now to the critical review. So this doesn't have an official kind of listing on Rotten Tomatoes. It does have an audience score of 50%. And we've got IMDb coming in the cut at a 6.1, I believe. So who wants to give me just a general opinion of the movie and what you think?
I'll start us off. I think
Go ahead.
this is a movie that, like I said, wears its influences loud and proud. And considering its runtime, it's kind of just like a fun romp that you're not really, I don't think, meant to take too seriously regardless. Having said that, there are a lot of things that I think are kind of wrong with this movie, but I still had fun. I'm going to give it a 61.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're right on there with the IMDb rating there.
Honestly, yeah.
Okay. Dan, where you at with this
You
one?
pretty much said everything I wanted to, Nico. It was an entertaining movie, entertaining to watch. Don't think too much because it doesn't fully make sense. And as you've heard on the podcast, there's a lot of things wrong with it that we've joked about, but it was fun to joke about, and it's fun to watch too. And the monsters design, as we talked about before, is really cool. So that's definitely something. I'm going to say 65.
Oh, you bastard. So I am right there with both of you. I put this at a 65 as well. This is an odd pod because we haven't really disagreed on shit.
No.
I am going to say this, though. Dan, I do have one minor disagreement with something you said.
Ruh-roh.
Because you were talking about before how, you maybe wanted a little more. The movie's just over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that this movie is better for it. Because I think if this movie overstayed its welcome, it would drag. It just, I wouldn't want to put, I wouldn't put in a fucking hour and a half into No Lily Cat.
I can see that too. And to clarify, I'm torn because I like the runtime, but I don't like how quickly the alien goes, or the bacteria goes from barely anything to crazy monster. So
no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I do think as well, if maybe we drop some of the subplots going on here, and Nancy being the company president's daughter had literally fuck all to do with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, so many things had nothing to do with anything. If they dropped those, and I agree with you, spaced out the growth of the bacterium a little bit more, I do think they would have succeeded there. So all in all, it's a fun thing to watch. If you've seen Alien, you're going to get a ton of Easter eggs and throwbacks and whatnot.
You'll laugh.
You will. So all in all, it's a 65 for me. Now, here's the quick question, though. Is this one going to get recommended to the audience? Do we think our audience should watch this?
I think so. I didn't think I was going to recommend this when we started the podcast, but it's dumb fun.
Yeah,
I'm literally right there with you.
It.
It's dumb fun. It's worth the watch, especially if you're a horror fan and you've seen Alien, which most horror fans have. It's fun. It's fun.
This is probably the lowest scored movie I'll ever recommend.
Honestly, yeah.
I can't imagine recommending another 65 movie, but it was fun.
All right. Now, obviously, no Golden Seal, though, right?
Nah.
No.
Yeah, not at all. So, any last words before we wrap this one up?
Yes, I have a question for you both.
Go ahead.
Do you ever think about how in our past versions of ourselves, we think about our future versions of ourselves and wonder, will we long for the time in the past when we remember what was going on back then? Or will we, much like a metamorphosed butterfly, look back in... What the fuck was that last bit, y'all?
There were so many... not so many. There were a few times where they got really deep, and I was like, where the fuck did this come from?
The whole is the butterfly angry that it was once a caterpillar? Is the caterpillar mad that it will once become a beautiful butterfly? What? Dog, we're all about to die. Is this what you're talking about? So now,
and my favorite part of that is that's right at the end. So he's saying that monologue, and then he just looks at Nancy and just smiles. And then she looks at him and smiles back, and it's over.
You fucking weirdo. She asks you, how are you?
So yeah.
Wow, we've had quite an adventure. What do you think's gonna happen? I just really care about caterpillars.
No, that's legit though. That's legit. And I think that's the perfect way to seal this one off. So it is recommended. So if you're into it, if you like what you've heard, check it out. Also, if you like what you've heard, though, you should drop us a line. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. And don't forget, you can check out every episode we've ever done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But yeah, until then, keep each other safe. Try not to rip off any famous movies. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.